Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am so enthusiastic about this day. I am enthusiastic about right here and right now. And today, according to my magic watch, it is Monday, the 1st of December, 2025. We only need to get through this month and it'll be fine. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things that are not really good for humanity. But we have no choice. Our leaders tell us what they're doing and we have no choice. So the only thing we can do really is to be concerned about our own 6 square feet of space. You know what I mean? Just be concerned about our sphere of influence. Anyway, I had a lot of mail, comments, suggestions over the weekend, and most of them required personal answers, which I did. I don't ignore comments or email or anything like that. I just don't. Because if the person is brave enough, I say that word, brave, because a lot of people are very, very self-conscious about asking questions. They believe, and it's a mistake, that their question is silly. I have never, ever had a silly question. Ever. I have had people who think their question may be silly, but it is not. Anyway, let's get on with it. I even had one lady who shouted at me, all caps, and she was saying, she suggested at my age I ought to be concerned about God. At my age I am concerned about universal intelligence. I don't subscribe to any religion, nor do I worship any of the thousands of man-made gods. I just don't. I do my best to be Christ-like. In other words, I do my best not to hurt anyone. I do my best to exude love, not hate. And I do my best to be my brothers and sisters' keeper. In other words, I do everything I can to be the best human being that I can be. There you have it. Anyway, I'm being a little long. Today, I want to talk about cameras. Okay? Because I had a friend, my Facebook friend, was concerned, why am I not shooting sharp pictures with my Canon 7D? Now, this is a Canon 7D. It has a battery pack on it, which you don't really need unless you're going to be shooting extended photos. So, this is the Canon 7D. Now, the camera that I talked about, this Canon 7D, I checked on eBay this morning. You could buy the body for $123 on average on eBay. And the lens that I suggest, it is not the sharpest lens there is, but I think for many photo situations, it'll be good enough. And that is the Tamron 18 to 270mm lens. Now, I'm going to be showing you some pictures. And all of these pictures the price. Yeah. The Tamron lens is going on eBay for $130. So there you have it. For $273, you can have the camera and the Tamron lens. And you can become as professional as you wish. Now, the query was, how come I'm not getting sharp pictures? Okay, let's address that for a minute. I'm going to be showing you some pictures, okay? And I'm going to be showing you the way it actually is when shot in RAW and the way it is after you have manipulated the pictures. Now, there's something I want to tell you. Many of these pictures, matter of fact, all of the pictures you're about to see were shot with a Canon 7D and with the Tamron 18 to 2 7mm lens. All of them. Now, there is something I want to tell you, that when I shoot pictures for JPEG and for RAW. I shoot both of them. I shoot JPEG because I want to see what they look like after the camera after the camera does what it does. Now, remember that the camera, what it's doing, it is creating files. A photo is a file. Okay? Now, I use Photoscape. I use the free version of Photoscape to manipulate the files. All right? It's analogous to me talking, which is just words, and typing on a typewriter, which translate my words onto a sheet of paper, okay? Or it is analogous to you using the new software called Whisper. You simply talk, and Whisper translate what you're saying into words. Well, that's what happens with the camera. You shoot a file, and the camera turns that file into a photo. And I use Photoscape. Photoscape. All right, now, let's talk about RAW versus JPEG. A RAW file is a massive file, and that is because it has got all the data into one file that you may manipulate later into a photograph. So what I'm going to be showing you as I'm talking is what the RAW file looks like and what I have manipulated that file, into a photograph. Do you understand? So what happens is this. I shoot RAW and I shoot JPEG at the same time. I set the camera to shoot RAW and JPEG. You can do that. You set the camera to shoot both RAW and JPEG. Now, 90% of the time, all you will need is a JPEG file. That's all. So you never even go to the RAW file. Okay? So, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that a lot of these photos that I'm about to show you, or you have been looking at, were shot with the, and I keep repeating myself, that's okay. I don't mind embarrassing myself that way. So, they're all shot with a Canon 7D. They were all shot with a Tamron 18 to 207mm lens. They were all shot with auto, okay? And they were all shot with an ISO that is on auto ISO. Now, you already went through, and you know what the ISO is. You know what an aperture is. You know everything about a shutter speed and what it does. And you know everything that you can possibly know about manipulating these different elements to make a photograph. Just about all of these photos were shot around 1/400th of a second at f8, f7, f11, somewhere around there, okay? With an ISO, even though I set the ISO at automatic, the camera decided that these should have been shot at 400 ISO. Now, I know that you already know about ISO, so I'll be very brief on this one. The higher number you have on an ISO is the more grain or noise you're going to have in your photos. So the ideal situation is to shoot your photos an ISO of 100. That's the ideal. The ideal situation is to shoot your photos at f8. That's the ideal aperture for me. So you set your ISO at 100, the f8 is your aperture, and you allow the camera to pick the shutter speed. You understand? So that's how that works. Okay, now, one of the things that you can do in shooting pictures is to use a tripod. Now, don't be embarrassed about using a tripod, okay? Because if you're going to be shooting a scene of let's say a scenic shot of the beautiful ocean or into the woods or something, where you need a large depth of field, then you're going to be shooting at, say, f16, f22, so that everything will be sharp. However, when you shoot at an aperture of 16 or 22, you have to compensate by using a slower shutter speed. If you're using a slower shutter speed, you're going to have a fuzzy picture if it's not on a tripod. Do you understand? Do you like the photos so far? Okay, so yes, I'm aware that I'm repeating myself. I am aware of that. And yes, I am aware that the photos you're looking at are getting a little repetitious. But here's the thing. I don't mind repeating myself because I'm talking about a subject that is important. So, my friend who wanted to know, why am I not getting sharp pictures? There are a lot of reasons for that. The number one reason why people don't get sharp pictures is because of the camera setting. Okay, so they have their lens is set on manual, and they just forgot about it. They just forgot that they had set their lens on manual. In other words, you set your lens on manual from manual focusing, which, by the way, is a good idea, but you got to remember that it's on manual. Okay, so first thing you want to do, if you want to have sharp pictures, is number one, make sure that your lens is set on autofocus. Number two, you must have a steady platform if you're going to be shooting photographs. Now, you can set it's called, well, you go on your lens and you can set your lens so that it will automatically put your lens in a position so that the lens is steady just before you click the shutter. Okay? So that's it's called image stabilization. So you can put your lens on image stabilization. The other thing I wanted to tell you is you need to get a software that you can manipulate your pictures, okay? In my case, I use Photoscape. Yep, I said it before. I used Photoscape because like I said before, I shoot RAW and I shoot JPEG at the same time. Now, the other thing that is very important to know is that the Canon 7D is an 18 megapixel camera. It means that from here to here, you're talking about 18 megapixel on average. However, in many photographs, almost all of your photographs, you're using that much. That is all. So you're not really using 18 megapixel. Your photograph now is down to 9 megapixel. And because it's down to 9 megapixel, the perspective is that it is less sharp. That is why you want to have a camera with a high megapixel. My ideal camera right now for shooting still photographs would be a Canon 5DS. The S is important. So it's a Canon 5DS, which would use EF lenses, because I have many EF lenses. And the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to have to go out and buy new lenses. So I would use a Canon 5DS. Now, the cheapest I can find one used is $800. Well, I don't have $800, but that's my ideal. And why? Because if it's 50 megapixels this way, and I'm only using this much, say half, it would still be 25 megapixel, which would be greater than the Canon 7D. Do you understand? So, when you go to the airport or places where there are massive photographs, these photographs were taken with, say, a 50 megapixel camera. The Canon 7D, by the way, is simply the camera that you want to learn photography on. That's the camera you use to learn everything you can about photography. Okay, so another reason why your pictures are not sharp is because of the quality of the lens. Now, I mentioned earlier that a Tamron 18 to 270 millimeter lens, it is around $130 on eBay. Then you get into a really beautiful lens like the Canon 24 to 105 millimeter. That lens, by the way, even used, is still around $800. So that's another reason why your pictures are not sharp. So, I hope I've answered your questions, and if I didn't, please, there is no such thing as a silly question. You ask me the question in the comment section, and I will answer your questions. Okay? So, to recap, all the photos that you're about to see were shot in RAW, and then I manipulated the photos into the photos. So that's what you're going to see. The raw photos will almost always look fuzzy, not sharp. And then I manipulated the photos by adding contrast, by adding saturation when necessary, and to add sharpness. Anyway, thank you so very much for the question, and have a super wonderful, wonderful, and magnificent day.